Yeah, I want to go into some of the correlations between oil, gold, and silver, and war. War. This is actually a health resort. Believe it or not, this woman is taking a bath in crude oil as an healthy thing. Believe it or not, I would not recommend this. Not at all. If you want to use an oil, it would be coconut oil or something like that, not crude oil. But actually, it just as a talking point. But I want to point out something. Actually, this is very interesting. There's an interesting chart here, and this is actually old information, but it's still pertinent. It's very pertinent because you got to look at history to see what's going to happen in the future. It's a they say it's not exact perfect correlation, but history basically does rhyme. But this looks like an ironclad principle. When you're looking at the price of oil, Suez Crisis right here, 1957, oil spiked. Yom Kippur War, oil spiked. Oil embargo, oil spiked. Iranian Revolution, when he got to start getting rid of the Shah. Iran-Iraq War, oil was spiking. It's not the fact that there's going to be a war someplace or any place. It's the fact that there's a war in the Middle East that affects actual oil wells, that actually blows up oil refineries, that type of stuff. Here, the Gulf War. Maybe people just didn't notice this, but that's what happened. The oil went up during the Gulf War, and 911, oil went up. So what I'm saying though is actually there's a good, decent correlation between the price of oil and gold. If you see tensions going on in the Middle East and oil's going up due to those tensions, you're going to see gold go up. Now, there is not a major correlation between silver and oil per se, right? But when oil goes up in a very hard bull run, that's when the correlation tightens up. Now, I don't think this is such a freaking harebrained scenario about war in the Middle East because, well, first off, it never happened so far because of Obama and his policies are against this, and also you have Valerie Jarrett, who's actually raised in Iran, and Obama's kind of like semi-Muslim, and you have Valerie Jarrett, who's probably sometimes called the de facto president. She's such a powerful advisor. She's been raised in Iran, so a lot of people actually see Obama, get around Obama. She controls that. So there's the White House has a very different policy than if you say Dick Cheney was in office. Dick Cheney was in office. Forget about it. There already been a war years ago. But what I think is going to possibly come about is because Obama is running out of political options, and it might be the old deal: wag the dog, the tail wags the dog. He'll go to war because in other words, the people that are the neocons that want this policy, Obama might go along with it for his own political interest too. But my point is on war and the price of oil. It's not that there's a war someplace in the world and the price of oil goes up. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with where a lot of the oil comes from. And this chart doesn't go into Libya. But if you look back in 2011, we had a major spike in the oil prices at that time too, and that's when silver actually hit its record high. It's not a perfect correlation. It's not a perfect correlation, but it is a decent correlation. And actually the correlation, I'm going to say this again, the correlation between oil and silver gets very tight when oil goes in a very hard bull run. It's not during normal times. There's not a good correlation. But when oil goes in a very hard bull run, gold and oil fly up. Gold and silver fly up. So that's something to watch for. Now, when does oil go in a bull run? Just look at the wars in the Middle East. Not talking about, other wars and everything else like that. And actually, if you look back, all the way back, and this chart doesn't go to that, but if you look all the way back to 1861 to 1865, when they had the Civil War, a war between the states or the Civil War, what happened was oil spiked about nine and a half times in that period of time in real dollars. And that was due to basically oil production domestically being interrupted. So I'm going to say this: if the war in the Middle East actually starts getting more widespread, and we go into bigger, more widespread wars where shipping lanes are blocked and all this kind of garbage, you could see oil go up to some crazy price, and that includes gold and silver. That's where you might see silver go up to an insane price. So it's not totally out of the realm, and so there is a correlation between the commodities, all three of those commodities, and it's war in the Middle East specifically that interrupts supply or has any kind of effect on supply does affect the price greatly. And if you're looking at those spikes in the oil prices, they do not exactly, month by month, but within somewhere close to that, you'll see the silver and gold prices we're moving up too. We're moving up a lot too. Like in 2008, we had an oil crash, but we had an oil spike. In 2008, we had silver at an all-time high at that year, and then it crashed all the way down again. It's like the same thing occurred with silver and oil in 2008. So I think Obama's options on it for his political survival are very slim right now. He might go along with the neocons. So just hang on. It's a very, very solid bet that you have here with oil, and there is a major correlation between oil, silver, and gold when oil goes into a hard bull run. And usually oil goes into a very hard bull run when there's extreme tensions in the Middle East, and some oil wells are getting blown up, or sea lanes are stopped and all this type of stuff, and oil pipelines are being blown up. You'll see oil go way the hell up. So it's not really a guess. The guess is, when is this going to occur? But and I don't think it's a matter of if it's going to occur. It's a matter of when it's going to occur. And looking at what's going on with Obama politically, it may be in his interest to let it happen and let the neocons have their way. That is my guess.